All right, good morning. Welcome back to our second day of our convention. The photograph, nobody, we didn't take any cash in these photographs, so we're in good shape. Yesterday, we didn't get to finish the entire agenda. It's not listed, but of course, the first thing we would do is go over old business. Does anybody have any old business? Not. Let's go on to new business. Does anybody have any new business? Peter?
I do have new business. And I would like to, I know we've had this on our board call, and I'm going to bring it up to the membership. If they think it deserves bringing up and discussing and clarifying. First of all, as you all know, I'm your finance officer. It is my responsibility to make sure that your money is properly used at all times. In April, I received a call from the judge advocate. In August, I received a call from the judge advocate. And the conversation took place where two individuals were going to go to Ukraine. They raised $5,000 and they needed an additional $9,000 for this trip. It's a $14,000 trip. I pushed back and indicated that a phone call to me to turn over $9,000 wasn't going to happen. I indicated that this needs to be discussed by the board. And then the board needs to bring it up at the convention for the membership vote because it is your money. Your hard-earned money that you guys pay your dues. You make your contributions, your organizations and constituents make donations to our organization. I gave you the finance report yesterday, so you guys have an idea where we're at. We're around $35,000 as opposed. When I took over, we barely had 27,000. I have been investing our money in long-term CDs to try to build up some more funds because with the membership dropping, less and less funds are coming in. So we have to find ways to make money. After I turned the judge advocate down and saying that I was not turning over the money, and I stood my ground and I said it has to be brought up and discussed by the board, and then it has to be brought up to the membership at the convention. The judge advocate says, what if the commander calls you? I says, my answer will be the same thing. Bring it up to the board. Let's bring it up at the convention. There's no big rush to send somebody to Ukraine prior to the convention. You heard the adjutants give his tour explanation yesterday of what he accomplished. What we heard could have waited until after the convention. After I turned down the judge advocate, 2 days later, I get a text message from Roman Fontana. Roman Fontana supposedly is listed as an MAL. I got home from work because my cell phone doesn't work where I work. I work in the lower level of a Cook County building. It's like a bomb shelter. We have poor Wi-Fi connection down there. But just as I walked in the door, my phone rang. I looked and it was the call from Buffalo, New York, Roman Fontana. He proceeded to tell me that he needed $6,000 because they raised some money. I figured, okay, so he raised some more money from the 5,000. So now instead of 9,000, he only needs 6. I told him the same thing I told the judge advocate. that there was no way I was gonna turn over any money of that a sum. And it had to be brought up to the board and the membership at the convention. So that we can all know what this money is gonna be used for and why the trip to Ukraine. He got upset with my explanation and proceeded to tell me that he had pulled our non-for-profit tax filing for 2022, and that this organization had over $300,000. And there was no reason why we couldn't turn this money over. I proceeded to indicate to him that we don't have $300,000. The filing for $300,000 is the culmination of the 5 organizations: Monument, Quartermaster, Scholarship, Welfare, and Publications, along with the 8 posts that submit their financial reports that are part of the group filing. I told him again that he didn't have the correct information as far as the 2022 filing. And at that point in time, the adjutant chimed in with his comments. At no time at the start of the call was I told that there were 3 people on the call, which I feel was inappropriate. If you have people conferenced in on the bridge, you announce them. It wouldn't have changed my explanations, but it would have been nice to know. So he then proceeded, Roman Fontana proceeded to ask, is this your policy or is this an organizational policy? I said, it's a policy that's been in place for a long time. You do not spend large sums of money without the approval of the board and or the membership in some cases. He then said a few things that were threatening to me. I took it as threats. And I said, if we have nothing else to talk about, I hung up on him. Because I've already given you my explanation and we're just going in circles. The next day, I received an email from some detective that indicated he wanted all of our records. He was now calling my financial reports and filings into question. He proceeded to write a 1.5-page report. I read it. I felt it was also threatening, and I felt that possibly Roman Fontana sent his investigators to investigate this organization and my financials. I have nothing to hide. I brought the books with me. I brought the the filings for 22, 23. I'm waiting for 24, but I brought the records of what was submitted to the accountant who's going to file, who should be filing them by the end of this month. I brought documents if anybody's interested in seeing these documents. I received an email in between that, between the judge advocate's call and Roman Fontana's call from the commander. The commander asked, do we have an account in New York? It was a chain letter because it was a chain letter that was sent to Self-Reliance New York Bank for the loan or the donation. I responded that National does not have an account in New York, but there may be some posts that have accounts in New York with Self-Reliance. Reason being, in that chain letter that was sent by the commander to the bank says, we'll gladly give you the money. We'll even double it, but we will deposit it into your account. And I believe that was the reason for questioning if we had an account at Self-Reliance in New York. At the bottom of that letter, there was the commander's request letter for funds for this trip to Ukraine. I sent the copy to the board. and I brought a copy here. That says to Self-Reliance Federal Credit Union, this is your letter, Commander. To the Board of from Ukrainian American Veterans, it's a reference to Ukrainian American Veterans gap analysis. To the Board of Directors, this is to Self-Reliance. The Ukrainian American Veterans respectfully request funding to support our mission to bridge and provide essential services, community programs, and reintegration support for Americans and Ukrainian veterans in Ukraine. Our organization has been at the forefront of identifying trends and forward predicting emerging needs in Ukrainian veteran communities. As early as 2015, our members assisted in seeding the concept of Ministry of Veterans Affairs, provided statutory language and bridging engagements and resources for every Ukrainian minister of Ukrainian Veterans Affairs, and working with the Ukrainian Embassy. Our members have served in defense of Ukraine, trained Ukrainian troops, provided competent interpretations, logistics, assistance, technical, medical support, along with other things. In 2018, UAV's diligent expertise was recognized by President Petro Poroshenko. As our national commander, Igor Rutko, past commander, Michael Hisak, present, were invited to take part in this Veterans Forum in Kyiv. Invited again 2021 by President Zelensky. The purpose of the present funding request is to conduct gap analysis on current shifting dynamics in the veterans sphere, and to produce solutions set for our Ukrainian counterparts. Our representatives will conduct meetings and preparatory work to open our first post in Ukraine. Collaborations with American University Kyiv and Kyiv Mohila Academy. Conduct an analysis on conforming to international veteran court models of Ukrainian Ministry of Veterans Affairs. The funding will support a number of key initiatives in Ukraine. Veterans reintegration and mental health programs. Minister of Veterans Affairs, ministerial program. 3, establishment of veteran courts and legal aid. 4, establish of UAV Key Post 1, Markian Paslavsky, signed by the commander. I feel that what we heard yesterday from the adjutant was all fine and dandy. We know what's going on. I'm not sure what was all accomplished because we haven't heard from the Roman Fontana report. Since they were not always together, both of them had also separate meetings. $14,000 for this trip seemed awfully steep, because in 2018, 6 of us went to Ukraine. It didn't cost this organization a dime. I did the fundraising with the Chicago group and with anybody else who wanted to join from various posts. And we took 6 guys to Ukraine for a week, and it only cost us $8,900. I think this money could have been better spent trying to formulate and get more people to join our organizations and even create more organizations here in the United States. We are Ukrainian American veterans who have served in the armed forces. I sent this letter out to all the board members. And then on the board call, I brought this up again, or somebody brought it up, and I addressed it. And then we heard a report from the welfare officer during that conference call. As you all heard yesterday from the welfare officer, $9,000 was spent for this trip. I asked, after the conference call, I called the welfare officer, Roman Stefaniuk, and I said, how did you go about justifying turning over $9,000 of welfare money to this trip? He said, I received a call from the commander and the vice commander. And both had indicated they needed this money because it was urgent that they get it right away and so far and so forth. I'm not sure if Roman can explain in more detail of how the conversation went. Roman did indicate that his last comment was, if I get something in writing, I'll do it. He felt, I asked him, and he said he felt pressured, and as long as it came in writing, something to justify it, he proceeded to turn over $9,000 of welfare money for this gap analysis trip. I, at the conference call with the board, indicated, and I wanted to go on record, that I was disappointed in the leadership and the process that took place to draw this money, for this trip. This trip could have waited until after the convention, after you people had some say in how your money is going to be spent. That's $9,000 of welfare money. That's 7 members of this organization, your organization, that are going to be shortchanged. And I feel that this money needs to be repaid back. And because let me double back here for a second. I received an email from the commander telling me, and then he said it also on the conference call, I had to make a unilateral decision. That's not the way this organization works. This is not a one-man show. I have a copy of the welfare bylaws that spells out how the welfare organization is supposed to run. And Article 5, duties of the Welfare Fund Committee, Section 1. The Welfare Fund Committee shall have complete control and responsibility of all monies and proceedings of the welfare fund, subject to express limitations as specifically set forth in this article. Section 2. Each newly appointed welfare committee shall select a treasurer, a veteran who shall be the custodian of these funds, and shall be bonded at the sum and sum to be settled annually. Section 3. Each newly appointed welfare fund committee shall select a secretary. The rest of that stuff is powers to be employed. Section 4, the welfare committee shall promulgate regulations governing the acquisition and disbursements of funds, mechanics of application, and other matters in accordance with the ideals and purposes of these articles, and shall have the power to alter and change regulations in its discretion, providing, however, that all applications of families of deceased members shall be subject to approval by the National Executive Board. All grants by the Welfare Fund Committee shall be made free of interest payments. Welfare, Section 6, the Welfare Fund Committee shall have complete charge and responsibility of the Welfare Fund. 7, the chairman of the Welfare Fund Committee shall sit as a member of the executive board and vote, and shall be submitted a report in writing each quarterly meeting to the National Executive Board. I'm gonna fast forward to Article 5 limitations. There shall be only 3 grants allowed in a member's lifetime of $1,250 each. The first 3 grants are approved by the Welfare Committee. A 4th grant of $1,250 is a special grant. This 4th grant is to be used for an emergency and shall be considered only for special occasions such as wheelchairs, hospital beds, special medication, etc. This 4th grant will cover what is needed up to $1,250. Upon presentation of receipts which have not been covered by your health insurance. This is the law of the welfare officer. I bring this to your attention because the welfare fund is short $9,000. And in my opinion, I believe a unilateral decision was made by the commander, and it is up to the commander to repay the welfare fund $9,000.
Based on what?
Based on,
Nothing that's in the Constitution bylaws.
it's up for discussion with the members. I've said what I had to say. If you want more information, I brought extra copies.
Most of you know me, I've been around for 30 years.
Matt, could you come to the front, please?
Most of you know me, so I won't introduce myself. But for those of you who don't, I've been around for 30 years. There's only maybe 3 people in this room who've been with this organization longer. And in those 30 years, I've served many different positions, including judge advocate, national commander, and so on. What Peter says about the welfare fund is a very important thing, because if we don't stick to the rules, and if we don't follow the rules, the welfare fund can be raided anytime by anybody. Okay? As Roman reported, this is the first year that the welfare fund has run a deficit. Every other year we've had money in excess, and there's a reason for it. As we get older, we're going to need that money for our members. And the idea that take this money and go on some kind of a trip is inappropriate. Now, I don't know how we get this money back, but I would propose a motion that this money be paid back to the welfare fund. I don't care how it's done. I'm not saying the national commander has to take it out of his pocket or whatever, but it needs to be returned. And I would say we need a motion for that. Thank you.
Can I just chime in for a minute? When this proposal was brought to our attention, it was brought out that this is a one-time deal. It will never happen again. It was for the last minute, I guess, trip that was scheduled or had been planned. And that the people on this trip had to provide receipts for everything that they purchased or they expended as far as money goes. And they had to provide an after-action report that will be submitted to this, committee or this, convention later on, for review, okay? That was one of the primary things that was, brought to their attention, and they had to agree to that prior to getting any monies, otherwise they would have not got the monies for the trip.
To me, that's a relevant question. Question is, it was the money from the welfare fund appropriately allocated and used? And my answer is no, and it needs to be returned. And the judge advocate can say whatever you want, he can interpret it any way he wants. I was there when these rules were written, and they were put in there specifically to make sure something like this didn't happen, and it was totally ignored.
So I mentioned earlier that my father passed away. He received 2 grants from the welfare fund, which was greatly appreciated. So thank you very much. That money was appropriate. I mean, my father had been a member of Post 1. He was a founding member. That money that he gave over the years came back to him through the welfare fund. It was given to be used to help veterans who needed help with medical or financial issues. It wasn't given to fund a fact-finding trip. As noble as that was, and I think it was a great use of the money, it was the wrong money to use. It should never have come from the welfare fund. If it was given at all, it should have come from the general operating fund, because that's what it was. It was not an emergency. It was not for welfare. It was for general operating procedures. That's the funds it should have come out of. This was definitely a misuse. If you're trying to argue otherwise, you're arguing in circles. And the fact that you're arguing so hard is proof that you're just trying to paint yourself into a circle, into a corner, because you don't have any, there's no basis for it. I mean, just come think about it. Was that the appropriate use of the money? In your heart, does that say this was what this was for? Is this what you donated money to the welfare fund for? For someone to go to Ukraine? I see shaking heads. No, it wasn't. It's not that the money was misused, not at all. It was just, it was the wrong use of that money. It should never have come from that fund. Now, if it's to be paid back, I don't know that the commander should be personally liable. My preference would be that the people that spent the money should pay it back. Or it comes from the general fund. That's all I have to say.
I just want
Matthew Robleski, Post 101. I remember when I became a member, the first welfare officer was Mr. Prima, that was on the board. He was the welfare officer for 25 years. And I was always told that the money was to be used for people in need. And I went with him on one occasion to where a woman asked for money from the welfare. Mr. Prima said, "Matt, you want to go with me?" I said, "Fine." He turned her down. He wouldn't give her a check from the welfare fund. And I'll tell you why. She had 3 cars in a driveway. She had a boat. All right. And Mr. Prima told her right there, he says, "You're not in need. I suggest you sell your boat, and I suggest you sell the 2 cars that you don't, 2 of the cars that you don't need." And he walked away. Now, when Roman Stefaniuk became the welfare officer, there was 2 occasions. One member of our post, his first name was Mark, I can't remember his last name. He was going for chemotherapy, but his benefits stopped at a certain point where every trip he went for his benefits cost $250. His benefits would not cover it. So our post, he was in need. I signed the check because he had to go to 3 more visits. So we covered that money for his 3 additional visits. But after his 2nd visit, he passed away. He died. All right. So And one MAL woman was taking her husband, I think it was in Colorado. She was driving 60 miles one way to take her husband for chemotherapy. And she asked if you're the head of the MALs, could she have a check for, I think it was at that time, it might have been $1,000. And I said, absolutely. You're taking your husband for chemotherapy. She's got to pay for this out of her own pocket. It's 120 miles both ways. And I said, yes, if you're going to be taking, she had to take him there twice a week. And he passed away also. So, but I was always told that the welfare fund was to be used for a person in need. And that's what it was for. Gentlemen, you went to Ukraine. I wish Mr. Fantana was over here to back up why he went, since he didn't pay his dues. And I remember him as one of the MALs, to where I don't feel he should have been given the money, since he didn't pay his dues. He was in arrears 3 years. And then he's gonna pay 3 years of dues and then be entitled to it. I really don't think that the gentlemen were in need. If we have the money in the general fund, reimburse it to the welfare fund, but I don't really think that one person should be involved with forking out the money for themselves. I think I agree with Joe Nasevich. Just transfer the money from the general fund to the welfare fund and it's paid. That's my opinion.
If I may,
No, you may not.
oh, I defer to the interview.
Edward Zedek, Post One historian. I also have been judge advocate in the early days. Pretty clearly, the National Finance Officer correctly turned down this request. So it came to a decision by the National Commander to request it from the Welfare Fund, which Welfare Officer complied with. Totally out of the scope of what's permitted under welfare.
Just to clarify things, it's not only his responsibility, it's mine, because I brought it to his attention, so I share that responsibility with him.
Yeah, but he wears the golden hat.
It does
right?
make a
That's the
difference.
So it's, there's fiduciary, and Attorney Mike understands that fiduciary duty here is breached, because I'm sure that Mike understands the welfare rules, or should understand. Anyway, the National Finance Officer correctly did it. Now, what doesn't pass the smell test, in my opinion, is that, as reported by the Finance Officer, there were some suspicious ways of having a call in and detective sending. What is that about? Who does that kind of thing? I'm really concerned about this gentleman, Mr. Fontana, myself. But that's my point. How you handle it, is up to this board. The board should have handled this, actually. And so that's my opinion.
The other thing you mentioned also, I think, Mr. Benchak mentioned it, there are welfare rules, you said, and articles. Are there also finance rules and articles? Is there a finance SOP that states how finances are going to be issued and dispersed and
When I was
collected?
given this job 4 years ago, there was nothing else turned over to me other than you are responsible
For the finance?
for the finance. You gather what money is contributed, you make sure the books are balanced,
Got it?
and you provide a quarterly report and reimburse the board for the convention expenses. That's all we do.
So we have no regulations regarding disbursement of finances under your purview,
That is correct.
okay? Now, we do have an articles of, please let me finish, please.
Yeah.
We do have articles for disbursement under the welfare fund. Correct, Mr. Stephanou?
Yeah.
What about any other funds that we have? Scholarship fund? We have everything under that that governs how funds are dispersed.
Yes, of course
We do.
Monument fund,
Okay.
what's that?
And the monument fund, where are all those articles kept? Where are those articles kept? Is it online?
You can find them all on the website.
You can find them on the website, okay, under which
Just look under documents.
documents, okay? So then that's something that I need to take a look at and review to make sure that I'm aware of all the different regulations regarding disbursement of funds. And I also suggest that we have a finance regulation put together that governs disbursement of funds also, that will cover any type of issues that crop up and how we disperse our funds. Because that is necessary if we're going to be an organization that's going to hold people accountable and hold people's feet to the fire. If we don't do that, then we're on. Okay, it's great that we have a welfare fund. It's great that we have stuff that governs the monument and the scholarship fund. But we also need to have something that governs how we have how our finances are dispersed in this organization. Yes, sir.
My question.
Come to the front, please.
It's.
Come to the front because the camera can't pick you up from the back.
Stand up when you're talking.
My question is to all the funds, and maybe you have an answer to that, and if you don't, then maybe that relates to what you were saying, is there a protocol or written documentation that says that a welfare officer or monument officer can disperse funds without any authorization? Is there a number limit, like up to $1,000? That's number one. Number two is, if it's higher, is there a protocol written in? What is the process for approval of higher amounts? If those protocols weren't in place, then whatever happened here maybe wasn't a breach, but just a misbehavior or whatever.
Misappropriation.
Not misappropriation, because if it's not written in, then it's not a misappropriation. It's a guy trying to get funding, whatever it is. The third item is something that might be done in the future is if someone has a higher amount to dispense because he's given orders by the commander to go to Ukraine or whatever process is, we might have a thing is that the person dispenses the money out of his pocket and then goes for approval for reimbursement, which is a process. If you feel so strong that your job is to do this, then put up the money, spend it, then get approval for reimbursement. Resolves all the problems. Thank you.
But I agree with Mr. Ninka. We need to tighten up all our documentation in all areas regarding finances. Okay?
Again, I got it.
They were ahead of you.
The ancient one. Yes.
Michael Wolf, Post 15. If a motion is in order to get this thing going somewhat, I'd like to make a motion that two things be done. One, an amount of, for discussion purposes, $500 be the cap on what the commander can spend, authorize, an amount of $5,000 that the board can authorize. Anything over that would have to go to the floor. Is there a second on that for discussion? If not, I think that's something that should be done.
I second it.
No, wait a minute.
All right,
No,
I've
Now we go to
I've
wait.
let everybody say
there
what
was
they
a
have to
second, there
say.
was a second that should. be-
No, there isn't a second because first of all, this
There is a
not-
second. Come on.
There was a
There's
second.
No, this is not new business. The fact that Peter Binsock derailed what we were doing. We were supposed to be assigning people to committees. The committee meets and then they have a specialized, for example, if you want to make, there's nothing wrong with what you're proposing. However, the vehicle to do that is by a committee. There's rules of what you can do to propose to change the Constitution and bylaws. And then in a couple of hours, when the committees finish their work, they can present it. And then the body here can either accept it or not accept it, or even table it. So it's not a free-for-all that people could just start throwing around different things and different accusations. I was quiet in the beginning because I want to give everybody a chance to have what they have to say. But you're right, Ed. I'm an attorney. I'm admitted to practice in New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, District of Columbia, and in several different federal courts, including the Supreme Court. I very well understand what a fiduciary duty is. That's the highest legal duty because you're handling somebody else's funds. Bogdan is right about one thing. Bogdan and I conferred together with Ron McCook and of course Mark, but Mark was one of the beneficiaries. So we pretty much, we just said, look, we want to reward an initiative and a true, one of the true new business, because what Peter brought up is not new business. That's something that should be up for discussion first. That means if there's something more complicated, a committee should be looking at it. If it's an audit committee or if it's a legal committee, whatever committee it is that would have. However, one of the other articles of new business, last night, Roman McCook and I, the vice commander, were notified from Ukraine that Roman Mashalets, who put together all the legal documents, Ihor knows because we were there. There were several of us there, but he was national commander at the time. And we have over five documented US veterans in Ukraine, and we want to charter and put up for a vote to stand up a Kyiv post. That was one of the goals in the solicitation letter that was proposed by us, you know, the judge advocate and myself, where Roman Fontana and Mark had to, in writing, agree that they would accomplish. So we are going to put to a vote standing up the Kyiv post. That is something that was an intention of the use of the funds. How we did it? Yes, as Bogdan said, we did what we did. Whether it was good, a good practice or not, it doesn't sound like it. Didn't feel like it at the time. However, nobody personally profited from it because in writing, both of them have to give us an expense report and justify what they spent it on. If there's something that we feel that wasn't spent properly, you know, for the goals of what the funds were for, or in the future, if we say we want to do a fundraising campaign to reimburse that money, which by the way, is totally reasonable. However, characterizing things like Peter threw around, which was really, no dues get paid into the welfare fund. The welfare fund is strictly donations that are made by either the members of the Ukrainian American Veterans or by other people that are, you know, goodwill donation. Same thing with the monument fund. I know some people that are not veterans that donated thousands of dollars to the monument fund. It's probably the same thing with the scholarship fund and the welfare fund.
Yeah, but people that donated to the welfare fund, and you know this, is they expect that money to be used for Ukrainian American veterans who served in the US Armed Forces, who are entitled to that money in need.
All right. Mark, did you serve in the US Armed Forces?
Yes, I did.
And was there an emergency that you had to go and you needed that because it was urgent because you had a broken leg or something and you couldn't drive 60 miles? I don't understand why you thought the welfare fund is the appropriate use of the money. I will never donate to the welfare fund if I think it's gonna be used for this sort of
Let's
shit.
get unified. Let's work together for Ukraine at war. This is
Bullshit.
ridiculous
This
to
is
fight.
not about
Listen,
that.
You know what?
All right.
This is not an argument, okay?
First of all, do not make this personal. Joe, Mark, or anybody else.
Sorry, Mark.
Peter. One of the things that we're striving for is we're supposed to be a professional organization of veterans. That means that first of all, we're courteous and support each other. So there's no personal attacks here. Second of all, if there is some kind of a proposal, not everything is a free-for-all. You can't just all of a sudden start throwing around like personal liabilities without some kind of basis for it. Now, I'll admit that we probably have to address refunding the welfare fund, and there's nothing wrong with that. We'll come up with a way to do that, but of course, there's no basis with.
I never had a chance to
Steve.
I know, but we're still in a discussion, so I could also
I wanna get-
participate.
You're out of order. There is a motion on the floor.
No, there isn't,
Yes, there is.
because that is not new business.
Why isn't it?
Judge Advocate, if somebody wants to change the constitution and bylaws, what's the procedure
If
to
it's
do that?
unanimous, yes, it's authorized.
No, it's not.
Otherwise, it's gotta go through committee.
It has to go to new business.
This is no business.
This is old business. This is raised.
No,
by-
we're not, it's new business.
He asked for
No, it's new business, but we have a committee that gets together and then does a report.
You asked him a question, now listen to his answer.
This was brought up this past month. I am not fully, how can I put it? I would have to say that this is new business then that needs to be addressed. And if that's new business, we can address it in the, upcoming meetings or whatever. So let's do it that way.
Is it a valid motion is the question.
Are we bringing up this motion on the new business or old business?
New
We're in new business. He called this new business.
Okay. So is this a motion made on the new business?
Yes.
Then let's do the motion then. What was the motion?
Well,
The motion.
Let's continue the discussion.
Yeah, here's the problem. First of all, the agenda, the next thing we're supposed to be doing is we're supposed to be assigning committee members for committee sessions. Something like changing the constitution and bylaws is something that will be, as a matter of fact, the chair of the committee is the judge advocate, because I was the judge advocate, just like Matt was the judge advocate, just like Ed was the judge advocate, just like, several other people here. That committee sits down, discusses it, and then presents later on the findings of the committee. It might be, yes, we'll vote on it today, or we're gonna table this, and there's been several things that we've said we're gonna address in a future convention, or have the National Executive Board first address it before the convention addresses it. There's all different options. So just because you brought it up, that's very nice, but that
You're
doesn't
not
mean.
listening to the judge advocate, and he just told you what the procedure is.
Let's finish the discussion right now, okay? So you want to talk, have you talk, and then you'll make your motion. How's that?
I already made the motion.
Why not? But let him finish his talk, because he's been waiting for a while.
Oh, fine.
Yeah, that was out of order because we're not finished discussing. So. Do I need to introduce myself?
Yes.
Bogdan Dudic. 10 years of publicity and publication. I'd like to point out a couple of things. First of all, we're all friends. Yes. Do I see nods? We're all friends here.
Right.
I have the greatest respect for the leadership of our organization. The welfare of the organization has always been number one in their book. Number two, I've never met Mr. Fontaine, to my knowledge. And I pretty much met everybody in my capacity. Not one word it was written about Mr. Fontana in 10 years of newsletters, ads, any of that. What is the pedigree of this individual? His dues paying and his legitimacy is in question. Notwithstanding, the goal of the trip was honorable. I even got to like him a little. But how it started, from what I've been exposed to, is from this unknown person who, in my opinion, has contributed nothing. He's held no office. He's taken no responsibility.
Nobody knows who he is except for a couple of people. He started this process. He literally tried to extort through his henchmen our treasurer. This is, dare I say, Chicago politics? I recognize it for what it is, okay? There's no need for acrimony. There's no need for that. What we have, in my opinion, is we have what was talked about a decade ago. This post and cave, and it's just been out there. This has been an attempt to bring it to the forefront and make it a reality. As I said, the goal is honorable. The process makes me sick. Hit the tax on him, totally. Coming from someone who we don't know, who has no reputation in this group, that's not acceptable. Any one of you guys, had you brought this up, I support you. Because you have a history with the UAV. I've thought about this a lot. My second concern is the fact that process notwithstanding, but my second concern is, had we used the same process, literally, to recruit people in the United States, in Minnesota, in San Diego, in St. Louis, in wherever, I would propose, in fact, when we have our meeting, I will propose this, that we should set up a fund for recruitment, to send an emissary out there, like the missionaries during the colonial times, to try to convert the Indians. Somebody should go on first face-to-face situation. We had a situation with Matt Rabluski. A guy in Milwaukee said he was really interested in opening up a post. I talked to Matt. He said, hey, I'm going to be going there. I said, hey, that could be a sister city post. We're right there. A sister post. We're like 90 miles away. How about we go join you? 10 of us joined Matt to go to Milwaukee to try to recruit people to open up a post. It turned out to be a guy who's goofy and he wasn't vetted right. He misrepresented himself. He was never in the military, didn't have any people. He was never a platoon, never a Sumievich, never a Boy Scout. We went and had a nice Mexican lunch, right? And then we went home. But the point is, if there was a process of vetting and finding these people and working through parishes or so on, we could establish a fund for that. And that would be, I think, agreeable to everybody. Now, I'm not questioning motives. I'm not questioning the intent. I'm not questioning any of that because I believe all of it. I question the process. We have always been collectively very, very adamant about transparency and clarity. Am I wrong? No. We've been adamant about being apolitical in other issues, that we don't cross those lines. If you notice, the publications never had a political slant. That's by design. So what I'm saying is, let's be civil. Let's talk about this like UAV members and get past this. Repay the money, get a process in place, and then maybe apply the same principles to recruiting in the United States. Because if we don't do that, drop the American part of our title and call it Ukrainian instead of Ukrainian American Veterans, because we're not spending enough time, money, effort in recruiting and doing the same thing here in the States. Am I wrong? Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Timothy Riley from Post 42. I was just looking at the Constitution and bylaws, Article 2, National Committee or National
Executive Board.
Executive Board, Section 12, talks about a finance committee where the commander, national commander, selects 3 people for a finance committee. The board ratifies those 3 people, along with the commander and the financial officer as ex officio members, develop an annual budget. My question is, do we have such a committee? Do we have a budget? Because this is my first convention. I don't know only what I've seen so far. And if we don't have those, are we going to have it before the end of the convention this weekend? That way, if we have a budget, then we can determine what funds can be spent on what items. That's how it works in all the other organizations I belong to. That's all I'd like to hear from the committee.
Thank you, Tim. And by the way, you're right, and we don't have a budget. And obviously, there's things that we did that we shortcuts that are gonna have to now be addressed. And we're gonna have to probably change the Constitution bylaws. We're also gonna have to wait for an accounting by both Mark Dotsky and by Roman Fontana. He was, again, there's a couple things that are not totally accurate. The welfare fund only reported at our last fourth quarter National Executive Board meeting till the end of August. So that was the annual report included September. So you didn't hear anything about the $9,000. You're mistaken. So what's important is it wasn't done correctly. So we are going to have to, just like Don said, and the rest of you all have, again, due process is notice in a hearing. So you can't do a lynch mob approach right away. And personal attacks, I will not permit them while I'm the commander. So that's not the way things work. We have an organization, and our organization is, again, supposed to be professional, but it's also supposed to have a certain amount of courtesy, and people can't just, again, I let people get up and say what they have to say. Maybe what I should have done is been a little bit more stringent with the time. Old business and new business are things that we brought up since the last convention. However, the committees have specific roles, and they're chaired by specific people that are either in the executive board or are picked for other reasons. So something like a change to the Constitution bylaws, something like, I'll admit, I was a judge advocate for quite a few years, both when Peter was the national commander and when Ehud Barak was the commander. And for example, I never really pushed anybody to pay their dues by April 15th. But neither did anybody else. However, that doesn't mean that rule doesn't exist in our Constitution and bylaws. Same thing with delegates. Delegates are supposed to be, because I remember one of my mentors was Anna Krutchuk, and I remember when I asked her the first time, it was 10 years ago when I went to a convention, and we do have it online. It was approved in 2007, our procedures for the National Convention. One of the things in the Constitution bylaws is anybody that's going to be a delegate has to be presented by the post at least 30 days ahead of the convention. Have we been following that? Not really. So a lot of times, just like international law, customary international law is one of the most important sources of international law. Those are customs that people have been, states and organizations have been following. But we have constitutional bylaws. If we want to start following our own constitutional bylaws, that would be a good start. And I'll admit again, when I was a judge advocate, I didn't push some of these things because I just felt like, you know what? Our priority is to try to get things done. For example, when Peter was national commander, he addressed Because I remember when President Poroshenko turned to him and thanked him for doing his opening address in Ukrainian. That was pretty impressive. And Peter's right, he, on his own, did the fundraising for that. I forgot what we had to pay for each of us, but I don't remember any of that, but it doesn't matter. I got this proposal, it was a last minute proposal. There is still things that have to be, first of all, we need to get a justification for what happened with the money. Second of all, we need to get a report, a real report. What Mark Doskowski gave was, he just gave you a thumbnail sketch to kind of give you an idea of what he did. Roman Fontana, my original understanding was that he was going to give us also a preliminary report at the convention. He spoke to Roman McCook and myself, right, several times. He thought we were going to have the Zoom like we had in the past with like a big screen, and he had Colonel Dutko, and he also had Roman Moshavets ready to address the convention. Again, part of new business, we are going to bring up the Kyiv Post. That's another issue, but we're not discussing that right now. Anyway, he decided to stay in Ukraine. He's there right now. For example, when we needed the applications that they had from Moshavets, because Moshavets is the one that actually put together the post a couple of years ago. Because of the attacks by the Russians, they lost their electricity. So he didn't have the capability of scanning, but he did advise us that he has enough members in accordance with the Constitution and bylaws to stand up the post. And regarding that, that is not something new. Ihurutko was there when Roman Moshavets, he's an honorary member of the Ukrainian American Veterans, when he put together, using a Ukrainian attorney, put together what they needed to be able to have this post exist in Ukraine. We're not proposing to have any kind of financial ties with them. They're gonna manage their own finances. But it does give us a toehold in the capital of Ukraine. And we do have veterans already, that, believe it or not, that are ready to try to maybe open one or two other posts. We'll have to see. We don't know. This is just something that's, well, it's more than notional at this point. It's something that we actually are following through with. That was one of several goals of the gap analysis, but they also have information about a veterans court. They also have information about a couple of the different regions. They have information that they got from the Minister of Veterans Affairs. So there's a lot more to it that we still have to examine and ourselves and see whether we approve or disapprove. And again, if there is a reason to have to reimburse the welfare fund, then of course we have to follow through with that just as well. So nothing was done on purpose. Even if you're negligent, you're negligent. If you do something with the intent to defraud or something, of course, that's wrong. There was no intent there whatsoever to defraud anybody. What we tried to do was, we tried to put a stopgap measure together to get them out the door, because for some reason they were in a big rush. Whether that was justified or not, obviously it doesn't sound like it, but we did get some results from the whole project. So what I'm gonna do, I want to defer this matter, because if there is a motion to change the constitution bylaws, you have to go through the committee.
Point of order, you don't have to go through the committee. It's in the bylaws. Anybody can bring it up at any time during the convention.
You can, but you have to have unanimous.
It has to be unanimous, but
Okay.
you can bring it up at any point. Doesn't
Right.
have to go through the committee.
Should be new business.
What?
Can I speak at this time?
Well, yeah.
The purpose of my motion was not to terminate the discussion or resolve the problem, because that still stands. But it was meant to set up, or at least to set up some sort of a procedure so that this does not happen again in the future. The motion is very simple. It puts restrictions on two categories, one the commander and the other the board. And once they exceed those limits, it has to go to the floor. that's pretty easy to understand. I'm amazed that we're not following any order of business here. You know, somebody makes a motion, there's a second, and then you go into discussion. The discussion is on the motion. It's not on other items. The last 15, 20 minutes have been on anything but the motion. So I ask that the motion be voted on. Now, I understand and they may not be unanimous. And then it will go to committee and it will be brought up next year's convention in another forum. However, it can be voted on and approved today if everybody says yes. And I understand that's a tough thing to do, but at least it gets it rolling.
Can we make a suggestion to make your motion that we have a finance regulation put together that specifies what can be done?
Yeah.
Because we need to have regulations.
That's gonna be easier than putting specific numbers on, and I'll tell you why very quickly. Because,
Well, that's under discussion. That's why I said,
okay,
okay, well, I'm done. I'm not gonna address the,
But I would suggest you modify your motion that we have a regulation put together for the next convention on finance and accounting and have it include travel, or whatever the case may be. That needs to be put together by a
no,
committee.
my motion stands alone. It stands alone. You could improve upon it or do whatever you want, but it stands as a motion to do.
All right, we let this go on too long. Any other further discussion on the motion? And what's the motion specifically again?
Is it recorded there? Joe, can you read that back?
I cannot read it back right now. Sorry.
You have it on your paper. I think you wanted a specific what amounts?
Yeah, the motion was that the commander be entitled to authorize up to and including $500, and that the board can authorize up to $5,000. Anything after that must go to the floor, whether it's going to be at the next convention or there must be a system for calling an emergency meeting if necessary.
We have
And
quarter
can I-
meetings. For the next quarter.
I just thought I heard that we have a finance committee that was suggested about the bylaws under the discretion.
Yeah, no, Tim had a very good point.
Okay,
I
so
am,
we already have a finance committee. We just have to enact the finance committee and develop a plan, you know, what they do with the money.
correct. And again, that was my fault, that I didn't go and, designate to the additional two people. All right, well, let's vote on the motion. The motion is five.
Can we modify your motion, sir, to have it include the development of a finance regulation or finance SOP?
No,
No,
stand
no,
like
no.
that.
All right, but we'll let that.
Do whatever you want after this.
Go ahead, go ahead.
have a secret vote. No, we don't.
No.
Has unanimous.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it,
Why don't we
is it the entire body that votes?
Clarification. We're talking about a regulation that only affects the operating account, not the finance, not the welfare account.
Correct. I was gonna bring up the same thing. Because the welfare fund has their own, by the way, Joe, just for the record, there are no, there is no, constitutional bylaws on the other funds online. It's only the welfare fund, and it's the one that before, the version that before you, what was it, two or three conventions ago, when you went from 1,000 to 1,500. So in other words, there is a committee, there is a welfare officer, same thing with monument and a monument officer, same thing with scholarship, the scholarship fund. When you look at any of their reports, they tell you who the committee is that approves or disapproves. So, but if your motion is, what is it, 500?
500 for the commander and it's, I think, 5,000 for the NEB board.
Yeah, without any approval.
Is there any further discussion on the motion?
And who
All in
seconded it?
favor?
Who seconded it?
Well, yeah, that's right. We
Somebody
didn't-
back here seconded it. Okay, thank you.
Nestor didn't
Question.
discuss.
Is it the entire body voting or just the delegates?
Should be just the delegates.
Well, And we have a roll call done by delegates.
Okay.
Let's just see if there's anybody against this way, if we even have one vote, it goes down.
Right, that's easy.
That's easy.
All right, is there anybody against it?
I'm against.
Get a roll call.
That's it.
So we had 6 people against it. So it could not pass because it's not gonna be. That's right. It's not gonna be unanimous.
That's right.
That's right.
Now, Don, Peter, Ed, Michael, Tim, you all brought up valid points. However, all right, I didn't put old business and new business in the agenda, but there is an agenda we're following, and I'm gonna hold you to it. So the next thing we're doing is we do have some new business still that I already hit to that.
I want to get up there for the new business.
No, I understand.
Okay.
I'm just saying, we have some new business, and then after that, we're gonna be, dividing ourselves up into committees. And then by noon, we're gonna have whatever committee reports there are, and then we'll proceed in accordance with my agenda that's published in the journal. So, and by the way, I do like a spirited discussion, so it's good that we got people interested in, making the organization better.
It's the only way.
Yeah, and by the way, I will say right now, all the past national commanders, Peter, General Kundatuk, Ed, Matt, Ehud, and I respect all of you. All of you have mentored me, so there's no reason for anybody to have, like what Don said, to have acrimony, because we all make what we think are judgment calls sometimes. It's the same thing we did in the military. Some of the judgment calls we had to make, like we even meant the life or death of our soldiers, sailors, whatever they call Space Force people, whatever.
Space cadets.
Space cadets. But we all respected each other and we all support each other. That's the most important thing. So any other new business? Nick Skeeter.
Nicholas Sturka, Yonkers Post, 301. I'm gonna ask Bogdan Dudich to do something for us with our help, of course. If you take a look at the journal, it's loaded with a lot of information. It has a lot of facts in it, and it's published once a year. If you take a look at the Tribune, it's loaded with facts, it's loaded with information, and it's published twice a year. If you take a look at what Len just did, who's our historian, he wrote a little history about our monuments for the last 10 years. Now, Bogdan Dudich has been our publication officer for 10 years. I would like to see Bogdan write one chapter on the first journal going back 10 years with the 2 Tribunes and with the 4 quarterly meetings. He can write a night, and I'll even give you the title, The History of the UA from 2015 to 2025 by Bogdan Dudich, the publication officer. He's got all the information just sitting there. All you got to do is put it together. Bogdan, my question to you is, are you going to do it with our help? You got the historian, you got Ed, and you got anybody else you want here to help you with that?
Just think about it. You don't have to worry about any of your free time.
Only if I can write
How
the
about
true
you doing
story.
it, Vicky?
Huh?
You proposed it. How about you doing it?
Yeah, well,
How about if I,
he's got all the information.
how about
For
if
me
I,
to do it would be totally a mess.
how about if I do it including all the darker side of our members?
Nah, you don't want to go down. But listen, I mean, you could really put together a good
I'll
history,
consider it.
huh?
I'll consider it.
Okay, that's my proposal. And let me tell you a story. I was a professor at Kingsborough for 25 years. And I published more articles in the department than the whole department did. And I kept telling the guys in the department, when you make a presentation, you got all the facts, all the information, write an article. So what do? They take that piece of paper, throw it in a trash can, and it's all forgotten. That's why you gotta sit there and you gotta put this 10 years together so it's not forgotten. So that's my request to you, and hopefully, and ask for help. You got Len, you got Ed.
You got Nikki?
So is the motion to force Bogdan Lubic? I just want to get it right.
I'll consider it.
By the way-
No, really, he has all the pictures, all the
Give me my
facts, all the
tribute
stories.
back and-
Okay. Not taking this one.
Okay, good.
And by the way, I will join Nick Skirka in congratulating Bogdan Dulic for an excellent job over the past decade. And I would like to have it for And of course, the nomination committee is one of the committees. So I would assume that that means you're gonna stay on for another year.
You know, that's another assumption you made. That makes two.
All right. No, I'm just, we need a little bit of levity. I'm still laughing on the inside at my own jokes, so, that might be a mental problem too, but we don't know. All right, so the most important thing right now is thank you, Nick, for bringing that up, and that is something that we should probably consider in the long run. Any other new business, Raman?
No.
You post?
Oh, yeah, well, you already brought it up.
Well, I know, but we have.
Their problem is right now is over half the city, half of KU doesn't have electricity right now.
However, we do have confirmation that we have vetted US, veterans that have joined the KU Post. And what we would like to do now is put it up for a vote. We have Rama Mashavetz who put together the legal, Ihor Rudkov has seen it. I forgot who else was with us, but.
It's just you, me, and Roman.
And Bogdan's friend Roman Fontana, he's the one that said, this looks good to me. No, but anyway, he did actually review it. He did put together an apostille, which gives him the authority, to set up things. And part of the gap analysis was to find somebody who would donate office space or whatever space they need to have meetings or keep records or whatever. So at this point, I make a motion that we, authorize the KU Post to produce a charter for them.
Point of
stand
order. Point of order. By opening up a post in another country, does that create a problem for us with the tax exempt status with the United States government?
There will be no financial ties between our operating fund or the other funds and that post. That post will keep their own post funds. If any of their members want to contribute to one of the funds, they do that individually.
So basically, that post will be a brother or sister post, but not part of Ukrainian American Veterans officially. It can't be.
Yeah, it can be. Can I?
Yeah.
It can't be.
Can't.
Why?
I'm just.
Let me answer your question. American Legion, VFW have posts all over the world,
Okay,
and I have visited them. And they're official, all of them?
I'm not questioning. I'm just bringing up a point that could create a problem. If it doesn't, fine. Right. That's all.
Thank you, Jonathan. You too. And by the way, anybody who's read books, I forgot what the name of the author is right now, the Generals and all. He's a member of a post in Paris, France, I think.
I've been there.
Because I remember when General Kontrituk was working on some of his, research.
Question, so there's 5 members, you said?
No, there's more than 5 members.
Okay, well, 5, whatever the number, they're all veterans of the United States services, not Ukrainian veterans?
Yes.
They
Okay.
meet all the requirements of our bylaws.
Okay,
No, that was their married to Ukrainian women.
okay, all right.
Matt. Yes, or Matt, you're right, because one of them, that famous author, which I can't remember.
Peterson, F-16 pilot.
Yeah, Noel Peterson, he's married to a Ukrainian woman, he's one of them.
General. The American Legion of Unopposed VFW, they're, 501c3 organization, right?
No, they're 19.
No, they're 19?
Yeah.
Because our
They're a
tax,
veterans organization.
okay, but we have to be very careful with our tax exemption because if no one here is a tax attorney and because I got what it says here, that it says refer to tax exempt organizations that specifically benefits veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces. So if they open up a post in Kiev, and I'm not against it, I think it's fine. Our monies can't be used to help Ukrainian veterans. Because it specifically states here with the IRS that our monies have to be used for U.S. Armed Forces, period. That's it. But I don't want us to get in trouble.
I don't,
So
I don't see.
if it's done right, fine, but it's gotta be, anyone in here that's got a computer, laptop, you could go in there and like, what is a 501c19? And the very first paragraph states what it's to be used for.
Well,
I just want us to be careful. That's
one of the things, one of the briefings that I received from Matt Klosiak was by one of our Ukrainian American veterans who's a JAG. I think she presented it, back about 12, 15 years ago. I have a copy of it, and it explains the 501c19 requirements and everything else. Is that the same briefing?
And I have it here too, called the Tax Guide to Veterans Organization, IRS.
Yeah.
Okay,
And we don't see, since the funds that they're gonna keep are not gonna be part of it. It's not gonna be part of the, I mean,
They
they,
can't commingle is what you're saying.
yeah, they can't commingle funds. Those funds that they have in that post is gonna stay there, and then our funds stay here.
Will all of that be put into a document that we will have in the future, the relationship between that post and our organization? We should have something like that.
Yeah.
I have an additional question. If you say we vetted these people, do we actually have their names and know and seen DD 214 of who these people are? I would say if we do this, it's contingent on us receiving those kind of documents and verification.
What I'd say is, I'm gonna just table this to the next NEV. And we'll just lay it all out of who everybody is and, put the copies up.
Well, I mean, we spoke to Roma Mashavets and to Roma Fontana, and they said that all the members are vetted, so they verified.
On us verifying this information. That's all.
Yeah, okay.
So, is that a motion?
Well,
Michael made a motion.
That's a motion.
I have a question. If we establish this post in Cave, are they eligible to run for one of these board positions?
I don't see why not.
And if they are, we're gonna pay for that international flight for them to come over, yet their funds are not part of us?
So all these details have to be laid out.
Yeah, but, well, first of
Good point.
all, it depends on, like, for example, last year, I didn't put in a travel voucher because my post paid for me to go to Warren, Michigan. I mean, they could have that same discretion, whether they want to do that, or whether they want to do, all right. Even though you don't really consult me on any of the reimbursements, if you look at the requirements, the commander is supposed to approve it. So if we did get a question like that, I would defer to the judge advocate and then present it to the National Executive Board of whether we should reimburse them or not. If there's something that is happening that's important, we might be able to justify it, but if it's a routine convention, it probably, again, especially if we put together, some kind of a limit.
I think that all could be addressed in a financial document,
Yeah,
if that post.
but it's a
becomes-
good point to bring up, that we don't get ourselves
Yeah.
into.
Can they apply to our welfare fund?
Yeah, of course.
No, I'm serious. No, that's not funny. Why do you think it's funny? I said it's not funny.
Yeah, we pretty much.
Attend by Zoom.
Well, no, Peter is the finance officer, and anybody else has the right to ask a question. Basically, like the judge advocate said, Bogdan Hivansky, we're gonna have to work out the details on that, because that is a good point, which is if we have a post that's overseas, we'd have to see.
It seems to me that there's a lot of details that need to be worked out. This is a starting point. And then we can have another discussion next year's convention. It's not gonna happen overnight.
Or maybe we can have all the answers by next year's convention. That has to be worked out.
We have
We
to
now
have,
and then.
we have to have it all worked out, and I have all the answers by next convention.
But can,
Bring it-
can
bring
you
it
make
to
a
the-
motion that, to approve on the interim pending final documentation?
No.
No. Question back here.
Are these proposed members US citizens? Do they hold dual citizenship? Are they gonna be permanent residents of Kiev or Ukraine? Or are they transient depending on their mission? And what can
mission
that-
are you talking about? What mission?
those members who wanna open a post in Kiev?
No, these are people,
Dual citizenship? Are they their permanent residents? Are they gonna apply for dual citizenship?
well, Ukraine hasn't approved yet that law for dual citizenship, so they can't apply for dual citizenship.
Are they gonna
And the
be living there permanently? Are they gonna retire?
Well, right now, the ones that are there, like Noel Pearson, he's been there for 10 years now, I think.
Yeah.
So
He's
we
a
don't
US
know, we don't know, and
Air Force veteran.
There's no way of knowing.
Or a special mission or a contract with some,
well, our constitution bylaws
And
doesn't,
then are they gonna go home?
well, no, our constitution bylaws doesn't require US citizenship, it just requires honorable service in the US Armed Forces.
Okay, in the meantime, can they apply this, the membership at large? Before we approve it or anything?
I don't see why not.
They can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do we have a membership at large?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we have some
The
that
vice-
are, that are,
the vice
that are living in
president-
Ireland, they're out, outside the United States.
what's that?
We have a member at large who's in Ireland, he's already living outside the United States.
Yeah, that's true. As a matter of fact, I think we have another one too. That's outside. Well, anyway, the vice commander, if you look at by the way, it's good that you're looking at the constitution bylaws, but the vice commander is the one that is in charge of maintaining a roster and guiding the members at large. And a certain amount of members at large can even be delegates at the convention. So that's something that we modified about 5 or 6
Just
years
a
ago.
clarification, in order to be a member, you have to be served in the armed forces of the United States and be of Ukrainian heritage, or you have to be married to a Ukrainian. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's in the constitution bylaws, yeah.
I just wanted to.
That's why we have somebody like Carl Harvey. That's why Noel Peterson, who, believe me, we were very anxious to see if we could get him to be a member. He's written a lot of very good articles about the Russo-Ukrainian war. All right, so,
Is good stuff.
so maybe, what do you think? Do you want me to change my motion to make it members at large?
I'd say table it for now and we can bring it up at, the NEB and get, on a lot of, until we've got the details hammered out. Like the finance details and stuff like that. So, because otherwise we're sitting there going, well, but we thought about this. And we sort of brought this up, but we haven't, let's nail it out, so we're, okay. We give them a charter, and these are the rules that follow for foreign, non-US soiled posts.
Because I think that's gonna have to be an entry into the bylaws also.
All right,
There's a lot of work to be done between now and next year.
all right, I mean,
Those are great points.
yeah,
Commander, have they submitted their own constitution and bylaws for your approval before the charter?
well, no, they do have the documents, it's just that we couldn't get it from them.
No, posts don't have to.
No, they
Constitution
can,
bylaws prior to becoming a post.
yeah, they need to get a charter, and then they do have the option of either adopting our constitution bylaws or having their own post.
Internal ones, yeah.
Yeah, So we would have to first, what I was gonna, make a motion for is for us to issue a charter to them, and then we would work out all the details after that. But if there's that many questions, all right, well, let's table my motion then, because what we'll do is, let's break up it. We don't have that much time for the committees. So let's break up into committees right now. The proposed committees that I have, sorry, so far is, resolutions, Vice Commander Alan McCool. Roman,
Yeah.
resolutions,
Okay.
membership, all right, these are proposed, so if if somebody can't, chair
Hard to
this.
say who the chair is and who wants to volunteer for it, so if you get some quickly.
Resolutions and Alderman McCool, who wants to volunteer for his committee? All right, I'll help you with that.
Okay.
Next is membership, William Georgetown would like to be on his committee.
Scholarship.
No, he's asking you if you're gonna do.
Got Tim.
Yeah, no, I saw Tim.
Oh, okay.
Well, Tim wants to do membership.
Oh, you want to do membership? So you,
Yes.
okay, so William, is that okay if he does membership? I don't want you to hold a grudge against me.
No, I'll do it with him.
Yeah, okay,
The
good.
breakout.
Next is finance and auditing. I have Peter Binsock, but he's gonna be audited. So maybe what we need is somebody else to chair that. And again, he'll be an ex officio member since he is the finance officer. Is there anybody that would be able to do an audit of the finance?
Oh. He's a bank guy.
Who's the name? Who's the name? Who volunteered?
Maximo.
What's it all, Bishop?
He'll be a one-man committee. Give him $20.
I'll do. Give me somebody with
All right.
accounting skills.
We have a chaplain service officer, but
Finance?
unless somebody wants to volunteer, because our chaplain isn't here, I didn't put anybody down. Does anybody want to do service officer? If not, how about welfare officer, Roman Stefanuk, who'd like to be on his committee?
I'm gonna be audited just like Peter.
Oh, that's right.
If ever that happens.
Well, can't they be combined by the one person?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that okay with you? If we combine the other funds with you for the audit?
Yeah.
All right. So we'll have you do scholarship, welfare, and the finance.
And the
I'm
monument.
scheduled for scholarship.
No, I understand, but what we're doing is, I put that down because you're the scholarship officer, but if you're being audited, we're gonna
Oh,
combine you,
okay, yeah, yes,
we'll do all the finances together.
okay.
How, the monument officer has never been, you've never been audited, so I don't think we need to.
No, you don't.
No,
Peter has everything, has all my records.
exactly, so I don't think we need to include that, all right. Historian, Ed Zedek, who wants to be on his committee?
We're not gonna have one, the nominations.
Okay, so you're just gonna do, yeah, just cross that out, put Ed Zedek as nominations.
Election, that's election committee.
Oh, you know what, sorry, I did have an election, I just skipped over it. So you're right, so we're not gonna do historian, archives. Unless somebody wants to address the archives, because that is gonna.
I'd like to update my report. I got some new archival materials today.
Oh, good. All right. Publications, who'd like to be on Bogdan Dudich's committee?
I'm with all that.
All right. And by the way, Peter has your financial stuff, so
He does.
yeah, but this is gonna be whatever you want to do in terms of, for publications. You know what I mean? Not the audit part.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Done. Thank you.
And that.
UAV website, Jonah Savage?
There's no need to meet.
No?
No.
All right, does anybody want to help the webmaster since he's already indicated, all right, he wants to. So get together, see if you can work
Okay.
something out. We're trying to help you, we're not.
Thank you.
I know you're still steaming, but that's okay.
I'm not,
You got that fighting spirit like your father.
that's my normal.
You know, just-
Isn't the webmaster on the auditing committee?
Yes, that's why the webmaster is not gonna meet.
Oh, you're on the auditing committee?
Yep.
Oh, that's right. So, so he's on your committee? But still, if somebody wants to help you with, you know, because you need help. You're trying to do everything by yourself for how many years now?
Well,
Yeah, so you don't mind if we help you a little bit? I don't want you to. All right, UAV bylaws committee is by the judge advocate, so if anybody wants to address the bylaws. All right, well, Michael Vogt, anybody else? Mark Dotsky, all right. And then 79th convention, Matt Koziak, if anybody wants to help him. All right. Nice sitting next to him.
All
right. Are there any other committees that anybody sees that?
Dewey. Mr. Dewey.
Oh, wait a minute, on welfare, Jim, you want to get together with, because have you talked to Ed? He's he's on the election committee.
Okay.
All right. All right, so.
skip quartermaster.
He's not here. He's
Yeah,
not here.
but I mean, we can still have a committee though. Somebody else could do it.
No. And he has a replacement.
He does have a replacement from Chicago, but he keeps telling me he forgets the person's name. So do you know who it is?
Leave him alone, he'll stuff the ballot box. He'll shoot.
All right, so we'll, because Stephen has called me several times and he did say he has somebody to replace him from Chicago.
Yeah.
So I assume that the election committee knows about that, right?
Tell me again what you just said.
Quartermaster.
Oh, yes, I heard that.
Okay,
I got that, yeah.
all right. All right, so unless anybody else wants to form any other committees, which you're welcome to do, how about if we take about an hour and a half, that's all we have, and then.
Is there gonna be a?
The lunch is, we ordered, we're going to order 3